Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us to the virtual roundtable series of the Platinum community that are taking place every 2 weeks. Before we start, I would like to inform you that all attendees will have their cameras muted and their microphones muted as well. Before finishing, the panelists will be given a space for questions using the questions and answer tool located at the bottom of the screen. And today's topic is cryptocurrencies and the pandemic, the impact of the pandemic in the cryptocurrency market, exploring the effect on money transfers and payments, as well as the evolution of the uses, applications, safety, and regulation. And I also want to remind you, we're going to be holding a poll and giving you just a very brief and very fast survey at the end. So please wait until we finish off with that. We are honored to have as a moderator, Mr. Hugo Cuevas-Mohr, director at the Platinum Network. We also have George Harrap. I hope I'm pronouncing your last name correctly.
I always pronounce it Harrap. But
Harrap?
It's fine, either way.
Either way.
Okay. How nice of you. Okay, as a consultant, we have Luis Buenaventura, whom is a founder and chief strategy officer at Bloom Solutions. And we have Jesus Izquierdo, that is also from Bloom Solutions. So I will leave you.
Bitstop.
Bitstop.
Bitstop, I'm sorry. Bitstop, yes.
And
you have the branding.
Sneak me in.
And it's Jesus Izquierdo. Anyway, hi. Well, we just gonna engage in a friendly talk. We're coming at this time because we're people from everywhere. So Luis is in Manila and George is still in New Zealand, I guess. And Jesus and myself, we are in Miami, and Glenda is in Miami too. So we're 3 to 1 to 1. So. So thank you for being here. As I said, we're going to discuss cryptocurrency, COVID, what's happening. We all seen how some of us who follow Bitcoin, because either we have Bitcoin or we wish we had, have seen how the market is being reacted. So we're kind of in a good mood because of that. But there's so many things happening, and we just want to discuss them in an open way. You can write your questions and answers. I'll try to convey them. But to start, we are going to have George come in and tell us what he thinks is new, what is coming. What is his ideas around this area of money transfers? I always have a thought of the beginning where the potential of crypto and the potential of blockchain. The potential is not even potential anymore. It's there. How people are using it and how you can use it is where we are right now. So let's start with George. George, welcome. Nice to hear you. I see you wearing your hat. Looks very interesting. Is that a New Zealand
It's
that you're carrying on, or what?
it's like 2 degrees outside, so it's quite cold. That's why.
That's true. Of course, you're on the other side. I'm sorry. You know?
Yeah. But no, thank you very much, Hugo, for the introduction, and Glenda as well. We might kick this off and just sort of get into the topic at hand, right? So as a bit of a background for those who are watching who don't know who I am, my name is George Harrap. I founded a company called Bitstop in the crypto remittance space in 2014, and work closely with people like Luis as well in the Philippines. And essentially, sort of through those years, I've been able to garner a bit of understanding about what's happening in the crypto world for money transfers in a bunch of different countries, predominantly in Asia. And I've been to IMTC many times, happy to meet everybody. Hopefully the next time we're all there together. I think, where to begin with this, that some people come at this from different perspectives. I'm going to come at it from somebody who's run a company in this space and what that means. And a lot of people, when they're first looking at crypto at the moment, we've got a lot of people, a lot of different coins out there. There's Bitcoin, there's Ethereum, there's, lots of different things happening in the space. But what does it mean for people that are looking to use it for money transfers? And I think one of the interesting themes that's happening recently is the emergence of more P2P systems. So peer-to-peer payments where people can essentially, have some website where they can connect together. They can use whatever their local payment method is. There's quite a few Bitcoin companies around the world which allow people to buy and sell Bitcoin in whatever their native mechanism for trade is. So in some cases that's cash, in some cases a prepaid card, in some cases that's a mobile phone. There's lots of different ways where people pay for stuff, right? So having one system that fits all doesn't really capture all of these different markets all over the world where people pay in different stuff. They need to receive money in different forms. So essentially, there are an emergence in the last 12 months of a lot of these platforms, and I'm sure Lewis can give some background on this as well later, is a lot of these different platforms where people can match their local payment mechanism to buy Bitcoin or to sell as well. And we're seeing quite a few companies like, say, Paxful. I think they're doing something like $40 million a week or something crazy. Usually in Africa. And I think there's a couple of other places where they're taking off, but they're really doing well in Nigeria at the moment. That's a really awesome example of something which has emerged out of kind of nowhere. And here we are $40 million a week later with people transacting, and they're transacting online. They're buying prepaid stored value cards, and they're using Bitcoin to do that. And why use cryptocurrencies at all for this thing? Well, I can have a Bitcoin here in New Zealand and I can send it to Hugo in Miami, and it can be done instantly, and we don't have to agree when the banks are open. We don't have to care about COVID. The money will get there. So essentially, this is a key important fact, when people are transacting in these P2P systems, is often you'll have people in different countries. And in the case of Paxful, you have a lot of people in Nigeria transacting, but they can also receive money from, say, China, or they can pay for goods in China using the local Chinese payment method. And that's super exciting, right? Because one of the problems is that not all payment methods in the world are connected together. So, using cryptocurrencies is more of a way of uniting all of these different payment methods. And this is what people are using it for. And there's different prices around the world, for Bitcoin in one location or the other, or different payment methods. But essentially, it creates a level playing field. And I think that's one of the most interesting things is, usually if you're dealing with banks, there's top tier banks, there's second tier, third tier. Everyone has different SWIFT, privileges. But with crypto, it's kind of like, well, can you buy it? Can you sell it? Yes or no? If you can, then you're in business. And I think that's one of the cool things. So that's a little bit of introduction about what I think is happening at the moment with the peer-to-peer networks. Lewis, perhaps feel free to add any more color to that.
Sure. Yeah, of course. So yeah, I guess it was kind of advantageous that George and I already had this conversation just last night, actually, about how things are going. So we've been catching up. So my name is Luis. I'm one of the founders of a company called Bloom out here in the Philippines. It's just after dawn over here. So like my brain is not completely switched on yet. I'm working on it as I speak. But I think we've had like a really interesting last 6 months. The Philippines is I believe now the record holder for longest lockdown in the world. So our lockdown started on March 15th. And as I'm speaking to you now, it is still in lockdown. I haven't seen my dad or my sister in about 6-7 months now, and we're just living like a few kilometers from each other. We're not that far off, right? So it's a very interesting kind of situation to be working under. And from a migrant worker perspective, very, very large part of the Philippine economy we're seeing folks being sent back at about to the 300,000 to 400,000 number. So in other words, of the currently kind of deployed workforce out there, they're sending back about 10%. Because of that, they are expecting remittances, the volume of remittances to go down by the equivalent number, somewhere between 10 and 20%. And if you remember your IMTC statistics, the Philippines is the number 3 receiver of remittances globally. So that's kind of a big deal. The ADB is estimating that we're going to see about $100 billion drop in remittances globally. So it's kind of a very strange new world that we're finding ourselves in. And specifically in the Philippines, you've got 300,000 workers who are coming back without necessarily any employment to catch them when they arrive here, which is again not exactly the best example of kind of big picture planning, but it is what it is. And what we've found over the last 6 months is that people are hustling like crazy for work, for new ways to make revenue. Suddenly everyone is interested in basically anything that you can do online, right? Because the parameters of the lockdown is you still need to make money. That hasn't changed, but you can only do it from home. And you have to do it in such a way that you don't have to interact too much with other people kind of face to face, right? So suddenly the cottage industry of crypto retail trading has become a thing here. And George was alluding to Paxful as one of those very important linchpins of the community right now, because they have made peer-to-peer possible here in the Philippines in a big way. I will say that localbitcoins.com was kind of the original version of that. Then these guys have been around for basically almost as long as Bitcoin itself. But Paxful has actually taken strides into actually stationing country teams in the various places that they want to launch it. And that's why their African operation is so massive right now. They've got they're not just building communities there, they're literally financing, if you look at their blog, they're actually financing small schools and things like that. So they're really making strides in that direction. And that is the case here as well. The peer-to-peer trading opportunities is so big that Binance has gotten into it as well. So Binance is one of the largest brand names in crypto right now. So they now have a p2p.binance.com marketplace. And thus far it's eclipsed almost all of the other volume that we're doing. My business didn't used to be a peer-to-peer retail trading oriented business. We were very, very oriented around crypto and remittances and things like that. But what we've found this year in particular is that now 60% of all that we do is kind of around these marketplaces. So we're one of the most active vendors in the Philippines in these marketplaces, because that's where the people are. That's where the people are trying to make their money. So, just to give a little bit more detail on exactly why they're doing that, the customers come to Bloom. We sell them Bitcoin at basically the lowest rates that you can get in this country. And then they turn around, they take that Bitcoin, they will buy things like Spotify cards or Netflix cards or iTunes cards or whatever. And then they will take those gift cards and they will, I guess they're actually more like coupon codes, and they will resell that to their neighbors downstream of them. Perhaps their neighbors only have cash, perhaps their neighbors don't have financial access. That banking access still not much of a thing here, so cash is still king. So kind of you can leverage the few resources that you have, which is maybe you have a bank account, so you buy from Bloom, then you take those digital goods that you have bought with the Bitcoin that you've bought from Bloom, and then you kind of resell them to other people. And that's how you make your money. You know, you can mark it up 5-10%, not bad, right? If you do enough of it, you're almost making, it's like a viable side revenue for some people. And we do have some customers that are so good at it that, you know, it seems like that is basically now their full-time job. But it's been wonderful to kind of watch people just reinvent, you know, and, you know, the circumstances under which we are operating right now are unprecedented. We don't know, there's very little way we could have prepared for this. But people are hustling, people are still surviving. And I think that crypto allows for these use cases to happen because it is borderless. So you can find these opportunities no matter where you are in the world. And you can access some of these opportunities from your, you know, small 1-bedroom apartment, possibly in the rural parts of the Philippines. And, you know, as long as you've got an internet connection, you can still do it. So it's a very, I wanted to kind of end in a more optimistic way, because I know that, you know, like there's been a lot of, you know, bad news recently, but it seems like people are still making it work. And I am very heartened by that. So.
And I want to say something that is interesting. That we don't know what's happening with remittances. We see the data. We see the data in Mexico growing. And why is it growing? I mean, is unemployment all around in the United States? You all know the news in the United States. They're not good. But people are hustling. And migrants have always been hustlers, really. Mm-hmm. And they will react faster to change. It happened in the 2008 crisis, where Mexicans, okay, construction, there's no construction anymore. I'm moving to something else. And we've seen it. We've seen it. So we know that migrants and resilience. With the Philippines, because the organized overseas workers is more corporate. Of course, is hurting more because of the cruise lines. I mean, the Filipinos in the cruise lines are huge in the numbers, Indonesians and Filipinos. I mean, there's very few cruise lines really now working. Many Filipinos were stranded in ports for weeks,
months,
without end.
Yeah.
so that's okay. Now, of course, nurses from the Philippines are a big thing. I am sure nurses are not going back home to the Philippines right now. Maybe it's the other way around. They are looking for more nurses to come to because there's a shortage of nurses. So markets kind of accommodate themselves. You know, I was reading examples in Germany, where they were busing Romanian and Hungarian workers just to pick up the crops. And because of COVID, they would just arrive there to a camp. They will pick up all the crop for 1 week and bus them out again. And because if not, they wouldn't find people to pick up the crops, and the crops will be gone. So a lot of things have happened. There's some of anecdotes that we're trying to put our heads together in why it's happened, why this country is growing in remittance, which doesn't make too much sense. So and you know, there is experts that are trying to come up with reasons. Some of them seem possible, but what is happening in this moment is what we says is that we reinventing ourselves, and it's happening in the real world in the real world, where I mean with fiat and the streets. We know that the restaurants who have been able to move into delivery are doing much better. Some of them they just can't. But I was talking, for example, in South Florida with a company that does packaging. They just ship packages, and they were telling me, Hugo, I mean, we've grown tremendously. You've grown? People have to take the packages to your stores, and you're growing. Why? Well, migrants are sending food home to their families. Why do you think it's that? Well, because they don't, their sons who are sending it to mothers, so the mother doesn't have to leave their house. So, for example, for the first time, they're looking at Colombians sending food from South Florida to their relatives in Colombia, which had never happened. So there's so many things that are happening that it takes a while because everything becomes anecdotal until you can see the numbers. But there is a lot of things happening in that sense, and I'm good that we brought those examples because I've been hearing from talking to one and another things are doing. Just like we said, now, we're talking about the P2P. Why doing that? In the B2B side, of course, settlement with crypto is always been there. I think it's gonna grow. Now I'm gonna stop talking and let Jesus tell us a little bit about his side of things. Maybe first you can introduce Bitstop. Maybe some of us know what Bitstop does, but I want to hear from you how you see Bitstop in this new reality, and then we can go over. You have a presentation, so you can share the screen in the moment that you feel like you need to. Jesus.
Okay, no, excellent. Thank you, Hugo. Really appreciate the opportunity today. George, Lewis, really fantastic information. Very informative. I want to talk more about that, but again, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Jesus. I'm the Chief Compliance Officer for Bitstop. We're a leading Bitcoin ATM operator here in the U.S. We operate in Florida, California, Illinois, Louisiana, Texas, several regions, over 250 Bitcoin ATMs throughout the U.S. I can't really speak too much for remittances. I can speak more towards Bitcoin and Bitcoin ATMs. A lot's happened. Sort of looking back, it's been a rough sort of initial half of the year, right? COVID, lockdowns. A lot of small businesses were sort of forced to close out of nowhere. A lot of people got laid off. As a consequence, you've seen economic stimulus, a whole bunch of things happen. I can't really say why, but there's been a lot of price action, a lot of increased demand for Bitcoin. I'm sure remittances have a large part to do with that. We've seen a lot of sort of institutional interest lately from big players. So whatever the reason is, there seems to be a lot going on that I can't really fully wrap my head around. There's a lot of moving pieces, but things are certainly accelerating, and I think that's one thing that the sort of the lockdowns have done is that they sort of accelerated things like Zoom meetings, delivery services for businesses, and also accelerated people's interest or appetite for cryptocurrencies. Right. So maybe back in 2018, people weren't interested. But now in 2020, it seems to be even hotter than it was in 2017 or 2018. Again, Bitstop, what we do is we put down Bitcoin ATMs. We allow individual customers to come and buy Bitcoin with cash. And we're seeing record numbers of customers, increased sales, just a lot of demand across the board. Very exciting in the crypto space. Unfortunately, there's a lot of sort of instability and sort of other things going on, but I see crypto, growing. I saw it growing last year. I see it growing this year. I see it, accelerating growth into the future. But I'm definitely want to know more about these remittances and these remittance products because this is very interesting stuff. I also just want to touch on that real quick is that in terms of, maybe back in 2017, 2018, we would, of course, people were going to send Bitcoin across borders. It's borderless. That's what it's for. But I think that the advent of sort of institutions, stability of Bitcoin, but also maybe stable coins, right? So, these notions of like digital representations of fiat value, of fiat dollars that can also still be sent across borders. I think that also helps, at least in terms of settlements, of remittances or other types of financial products, eliminates some of that risk, So I think that's sort of becoming bigger, and I think it's going to grow, accelerate even more so, in the future. Yeah, I don't know if you guys want to sort of touch on that.
Yeah, no, and I see digital in all senses is growing, and I talk to banks, even of companies that are on the other side of the remittances, saying, well, yes, some of the traditional players are going down, but my digital is going up. But at the sense, when I go down, it's almost at the same level of 2019 or a little bit behind. So I understand the situation, and in Philippines and some countries will have that situation. There is even from Western Union to Eastern Europe, there's a lot of people moving in that situation. I don't think there's been much migrants going back from the United States to their countries in Latin America. And with cryptocurrencies, it doesn't really matter what the people use the currency for. Will they send it or not? Because in a way, in the virtuality, there's no borders. So of course you have legislation here and there, and I want to get into regulation with you, Jesus, because I know you're a guy who watches every move in legislation every day. I mean, when I want to know what's going on in any state of the United States with respect to crypto, I go to Jesus. He is the source of my information. So can you tell us a little bit, because I know that a lot of regulators have been at home and things, but some licensing is still happening, it's slower in sometimes. There's some movement in regulation, not much, but what can you tell us on that sense, Jesus?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really want to bore anyone with the regulatory. Things have changed. It doesn't move as fast as, let's say, the price of Bitcoin, but it does move, over the years. The needle does move. It's still sort of fragmented, from state to state. At least at the federal level, you still have to register with FinCEN as a money transmitter if you're touching Bitcoin, but state by state varies. Places like Florida require licensure as a money transmitter. The newest things that have happened, or the most recent developments, are, New York supposedly issued a conditional licensing. So they used to have sort of a more strict bit license. Apparently, all indications are that process may be slowing, or not slowing, but easing, some of those restrictions in order to sort of grow the crypto space in that state. At the same time, there are other states, it's rumored, for example, like Louisiana, where we're seeing the states do a 180. So basically, they used to have a stance that, hey, we're not gonna deal with crypto. We don't consider it money. We don't consider it money transmission. They sort of done a 180 on that now, and they're looking to enact a license for bring Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies, that exchange sale process into the fold of money transmission licenses in that state. So we are seeing some states sort of now slowly adopting their rules. But aside from that, there was also this talk a while ago about the OCC setting up a charter federally. And I believe there's some tension between the OCC and New York State. That's what I'm reading out there. So a lot of things, regulation doesn't move as quickly, but there are some interesting developments happening. So I imagine by the end of the year, regulation is going to look a lot more interesting than it does today.
I think, and you'll see 2021, because because I've seen a lot of regulators even wanting to know more information about what's happening, because yes, I mean, anything that is digital is going to be frontline much more than ever. That's definitely. I mean, in our consulting side, we have even more customers coming to us and says, Hugo, you've been always talking about diversifying. You were always talking about this. What about us? What can we do? And some companies are at least moving to how much do I have to know of crypto to be able to move into doing something in that space? Jesus, I know you have a presentation. You want to share it?
Yeah, let's do it. Let me
Let's do it. Come on. So any questions, you can just open your chat and just or your Q&A
There is a
and
question in chat, but we might
write
do
it
it
down,
later, I think.
and we'll pick them up.
see that there. Yeah. All right.
Yes, we can see it. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Well, again, I work for Bitstop. We were, founded back in 2015. We are, leading Bitcoin ATM operator. We were the first in Florida, the first to bring Bitcoin ATMs to Florida, the first to be licensed as a money transmitter, a Bitcoin company to be licensed as a money transmitter in the state. We have over 250 machines throughout the U.S. now. So it's been a fantastic journey. I joined the company in 2016 as a compliance officer, and just really amazing working with the team and growing the company. So some big developments during the pandemic these past couple months. We've seen sort of incredible demand for Bitcoin, as I was sort of touching on earlier. It's really increased sort of dramatically. Price has also grown. It surpassed 10,000, touched 12,000 the other day. Across the market, it's not just Bitcoin. There's Ethereum, Bitcoin Cash. All these cryptocurrencies are seeing significant price action. We've seen some institutions sort of also do 180s and now want to become part of the fold. This company, MicroStrategy, essentially purchased about $250 million in Bitcoin as a primary reserve asset. So in essence, they were going to have that cash parked there. They just said, let's buy Bitcoin with it, which is a very, very bold move, very, very big statement for the industry. And of course, we have a lot of interesting stuff happening with central banks in the midst of a economic slowdown. We have negative interest rates, stimulus packages, high unemployment, and asset purchases. So that's something to sort of keep our eyes on towards the end of the year and into 2021. Gold, silver, Bitcoin are all rallying in tandem. They're all growing simultaneously, which is very interesting. We're also seeing some shuffling of employees at major firms. Company CoinSquare had an executive step down, admitting to artificially inflating these trading volumes. So the fact that an exchange was able to sort of inflate these figures really means that we need to, from my standpoint, there needs to be a little bit more regulation, more auditing of their processes, of the reserves, to make sure that these things don't happen, especially since they're dealing with, millions and millions of dollars. So other institutional. So there's a report by Chain Analysis. They're a large blockchain analytics provider that says that majority of cryptocurrencies being hodled or held lately. So not too many people are sort of trading it, so yeah, buying and holding. But again, there may be other experiences. And then there's the head of the CCC is known, anecdotally as Crypto Mom. In essence, this person has a positive view of cryptocurrencies, and they're now heading the SEC. So theoretically, that's a good thing. We should see. We'll see what happens. Some other interesting developments in California. There was an individual who pled guilty to laundering money through Bitcoin ATMs. It's about $25 million. He had his own maybe operation of 30 machines, was laundering his own cash through it. They busted him. So again, sometimes in business we may say, oh, regulation's bad, it doesn't allow us to make money, but you need to, again, have regulation, have audits, have all these checks and balances sort of in place. Some other cool things or interesting developments recently were there was a massive hack of Twitter, right? Classic BTC scam through some of these high-profile accounts happened a couple weeks ago. I think maybe there was like 100,000 Bitcoin that was sent to these false accounts. Ethereum Classic, another cryptocurrency, had a 51% network attack. In essence, that means that some hackers stole the hashing power from the network and were able to hijack it. It's not very good for the confidence in that particular blockchain. Regarding regulations, I was touching on earlier, some states do require licensure to operate a Bitcoin ATM. Some states do not require licensure. Typically, the main distinction is like whether there's a third party involved, and if you're selling from your own inventory of Bitcoin. For the most part, in these states where it's not defined as money transmission. As I mentioned previously, Louisiana is looking to bring it into the fold of money transmission. Some other interesting developments with New York, they've issued that conditional licensing program. They've also approved a green list of tokens. In essence, what this means is basically they approved a list of assets that are able to be traded or sold by licensees. So if you have a New York virtual currency license, you can sell or work with this green list of assets or tokens for custody purposes. On top of that, we're seeing central banks sort of take tremendous action with cryptocurrency. So China's rumored to have launched their own digital currency. Russia, North Korea are rumored to do it. We know the Venezuelan government did a year ago or so issue the petro, and I'm sure that Venezuela's using Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies a lot at this point, and will probably continue into the future. Moving forward, we see a lot of growth. So specifically with Bitcoin ATMs, back in 2016, there were maybe 1,000 or 2,000. That number has steadily grown to I think over 9,000 Bitcoin ATMs currently, and that's a global figure. I think the U.S. is about 75% of those measures. But it's certainly going to surpass 10,000 into 2021 and continue to grow. We don't see any indication that it's going to be slowing down. And we're seeing acceleration and maturity of a lot of cryptocurrency projects. Although recently I discovered there was a hack of a DeFi project, or basically a bug, and a lot of people lost a lot of money. So it's unfortunate. We are on the bleeding edge of finance. There's a lot of experimental technology there, and it's very risky. So I mean, people need to be very careful with what they do with their money. But that space is going to
people.
Yeah.
Oh, this is interesting, really, and if you think about it, why would an ATM where you need to be presential, you have to go someplace, why would it, of course, and I know that, in the first month, 2 months when the shock came, is what is going to happen, to everyone. Just had this big worry in their minds, and how that changed is just very interesting, how that still people just went ahead. Of course, we have not had a lockdown in the United States like Luis have had in the Philippines. I mean, and maybe the consequences of that is what we see in the news, because really, besides, like in here in Miami, besides certain weeks or days that we have, that the mayor had decided to do a curfew just because young kids were partying and that was becoming a problem. But we really have not had a real lockdown at all. I mean, people that want to take care of themselves, and period. Now we have some great attendees, and we would love to hear from them. We all know Faisal. So Faisal, nice for you to join us. if you have a question, if you're welcome. We know how much you know and how much you follow this. I see also Mr. Pasas, Professor Pasas, Nikos Pasas is an expert in compliance. He's been a panelist at IMTC too. He's written many and for sure, Jesus, he would be interested in what you have to say about that. So if you have questions, but if any of you want to add something, please do. I have a couple of questions that I could ask, but I want to hear.
Hugo, there's some questions in the chat as well already, so maybe we could start with those.
Yes, you look at it. Yes, go on. Faisal says he's loving the conversation, and a question from Faisal is, my question is, do you see the death of the small cornerstone MTO? Faisal, you're throwing me under the bus. Okay, no, I don't. And I don't for many reasons, Faisal. There's some agents are going to close down. That's crisis forces situations like that. And some already, I've talked to a couple of them that they decided that they're not going to do this. But I've been really talking to a lot of agents, and there's a lot of things, very interesting things happening. They're doing, some of the agents who are not receiving cash are imagining ways to receive payments with digital means. Some of them are a little bit alternative. I'm not going to name some of those because I don't know. Not because, in a way, not because they're illegal. Is because I'm always concerned about revealing some of this information that I receive. But some of them are becoming so creative and in helping some customers that cannot reach to them, sending money through the digital channels to be able to, for that agent to do the transmission. So I think that some of those agents are looking at other ways of making money. Some of them are very smart. They've gone through crisis before and they might survive. Of course, the move to digital is happening. I was discussing the other day in a panel with Leon, and he says, here's Hugo again defending the agents. It's not only that, is that is very resilient market. The agents really want to see the face of the person, and they will come back. I'm looking for ways for those agents to be digital in some sense, for companies to be smart and say, how I help my agent to also reach their own customer digitally. So yes, there are going to be less agents of money transfer companies. I do think so. Digital is growing. I've talked to almost every digital player, and they have seen their volumes grow up. So I say that yes, they're going to be affected. It is going to be different in different markets. The same thing that I know from Bitstop, that some of these agents, those small money transfer agents, have talked to Bitstop about putting an ATM Bitcoin in their premises. And so I think that's a smart move. Okay, I want to be in that economy. How can I be that? I make some money with that. I have customers that trust me. I can teach them how to use Bitcoin. So the creative people out there are going to survive by applying some of what they know. It's like Luis said about the neighbors selling, buying with Bitcoin and selling those products to their neighbors. You know, people find ways, and migrants are always been very creative. So I want to say that. You want to take a question there, George?
I actually had like a really quick bit just to answer Faisal's question, at least from the Philippine perspective. I think that the the remittance industry is no different from any other sector of the economy right now, where, you know, because they are largely brick and mortar, especially here in the Philippine side, very cash oriented, they're all affected equally by the lockdown. The smaller agents kind of subsist on daily transaction volume, monthly revenues, but that's basically zero. That's effectively been zero for the last few months because they can't actually open their doors. So what is that doing? The remittance volume is still coming in. It's not as if the money has also ceased. So it's finding a different way to come in, and that's coming in through mobile wallets. So in a way, what's happening is that the volume has been cannibalized by kind of these digital players. In the Philippines, we have a couple of telco-based mobile wallets that have seen 3-4x growth this year because people kind of have to do stuff online. So I believe that we will see a lot of closures from the kind of the smaller end of the physical cash agents kind of end of the spectrum. And very likely we will see consolidation, where the bigger network players are just going to buy up these locations, because why wouldn't they? They've got deep pockets. So, yeah, and those locations represent a venue where real transactions were happening, just not now. And if you can fast forward to a year from now, I mean, hopefully this lockdown will be a distant memory. You got to imagine that people are strategizing beyond that. But the smaller agents just don't have the dry powder to keep going.
Yes.
So we'll see that for sure, because we're seeing that in every other industry over here,
Yes.
where, you know, kind of the biggest players are just buying up the smaller ones who are kind of close to bankruptcy or whatever. It's unfortunate, right? I mean, it removes diversity in the marketplace when stuff like this happens. And I wish it wasn't the case, but at least that's what we're seeing from this perspective.
And I think as well, a lot of these agents, you know, we're talking about crypto here and all these different things which people are doing. We talked about the P2P stuff. You know, I've been saying for years that money transfer agents shouldn't think of themselves as just a money transfer agent, right? Like they should be something else. They should be, you know, Amazon gift card agent. They should be doing travel. They should be doing, you know, lots of different things. And crypto is just one of these things of which they can make money on. And I think it gets to the larger conversation about, well, what about cash? Because as long as cash is still there, there's still going to be these agents. There's going to be less of them, but they're still going to be there. So then the question is, well, you know, how does crypto fit into all of this? Just quickly, I want to touch upon some of the questions that we've got in chat. Some of them are, you know, along the lines of stable coins, as well as what's the benefits for an actual real business. So just to touch on that, I think we can tie those two together. Stable coins are pretty awesome because essentially it allows you to hold value in your national currency without having to worry about a bank. And, you know, that's something that we've been, you know, sort of pioneering for years is using these stable coins, converting them into and out of cash, and you don't need banks. So, you know, that's one way where it could be beneficial to the business. Another way is a lot of these stable coins at the moment, you know, Jesus was talking about some of the sort of things happening in crypto. A big thing at the moment is lending, loans as well. So you can get loans in crypto basically instantly. And what I'll tell you an interesting story. Right here in my house, I'm paying for my rent with a loan which is net positive. So on crypto, you can, look at Lewis laughing. You can actually, yeah, there's lots of different loan platforms now. So you can loan from the world, the internet, and then you can get these stable coins. So with those stable coins, you can do stuff with it, right? So in our case, instead of paying the bank money, I'm actually getting paid in stable coins to take a loan, which is an insane concept, but that's the realities of crypto market at the moment.
Okay, I want to do that with my rent too, so I'll touch upon you to help me do it.
Yeah.
That means your rent decreases because the value of your crypto, the value of your loan decreases. I don't know. We'll talk about it, but a good example. Yeah,
it's a cool example, right? And you know, there's a lot of businesses I know in the crypto space which are putting their idle capital into these stable coins to earn a return on it. And if you can earn 20% on USD in crypto, why would you have a bank account? And that's entirely viable right now and has been for years, in this sort of lending with stablecoins. So anyway, to answer some of those questions, like, there are real use cases. Businesses can see this as a new money-making mechanism, right? This, like, if they're struggling with remittances, think about crypto as this gateway into or out of this digital world. So I really see them as on and off ramps. Then you've got stablecoin, stuff happening behind the scenes. And you've also got some of these new use cases emerging, like loans, without traditional sort of strings attached, in the crypto world, which will take a while to filter down to lots of businesses, but, it's moving at such a rapid pace. The thing with Jesus was talking about there with Ethereum, that particular project amassed $500 million in 24 hours, and it was 2 days ago. So, there's a lot of interest in this space, but I'll just leave it at that.
One quick data point about stablecoins. Like this time last year, I think stablecoin trading, maybe about 10% of our volume. That was about it. So primarily all of our customers were still trading with us with Bitcoin or Ethereum. And those were kind of the main assets that we were seeing. This year, I would say stablecoins are at least half of our trading volume. So there's definitely, like, the market, at least locally, is starting to see the like things like Tether, things like USDC, maybe even DAI down the road, but not at the moment yet. But the local market is starting to see this stuff as a slightly more manageable entry point into the crypto world, right? I mean, for the purposes of what they need, which is basically international payments, Tether is slightly better than Bitcoin, at least in the sense that it doesn't move as the price doesn't change as you're sending it, right? So there's that kind of aspect to it, which if you are a small entrepreneur, it helps. So I think that's a pretty big reflection of where the world is at with its understanding of what crypto can do.
Yes, and you know that one of my jobs in the money transfer or foreign exchange world is just try to open the minds to some of people that have clients, have businesses, to just learn a little bit more. I tried, I've learned from Luis and George so much about the crypto space, because I try to listen, and because I go back to them and says, okay, explain to me again. And for me, it takes me 2 or 3 explanations. I am conscious of that, but I know that it is a reality. It is happening, and there's a lot of companies out there that are missing the chance. Definitely, just learning a little bit more, or finding someone from your team or outside of your team that can bring that to them. There's so many companies that have retail stores, that have agents. Some of those products they can have. Okay, some tell me yes, but if I tell my bank, then my bank won't like it. Well, there are banks already that you can work even without a bank with certain projects. You can be very much compliant. Jesus knows that. I mean, I've worked with him and I've seen the work he's done with the ATMs, and he's just very good. You do very good KYC. You don't have to worry. Of course, you always have to worry what the clients are going to do with your services. But that's the nature of the game. Banks have to worry about that. Yes, there's a lot of intelligent people out there that can use your services to do illegal things. But I think we move so much with the compliances, with the system, with AI, etc., to really avoid risk in many ways. So I want to tell you that we have some more questions here, but we have our Peanut community where you can go, and we're gonna. I'll promise you I get George and Luis and maybe Jesus to answer some of these questions. I'll do a blog about it, or have somebody at the Peanut do it. But I tell you, it is an interesting world. We're planning. IMTC in November as a virtual event. We'll have a panel like this, and we're going to be in different time zones, so a lot of people are going to participate. And this one, it was challenging, and as we said it at the beginning, maybe not everybody was there with us at the beginning, but we have George in New Zealand and -2 degrees. That's why he's wearing his little cap. We have Luis Buenaventura in Manila. We have Jesus in Miami. And in the virtual world, we're learning that, you know, we can be together, we can discuss. So there are good things about it, of course. Especially in the IMTC events, we like to be next to each other and be able to discuss it. But this virtuality is also a plus in the way that we can do this, discuss it, and share. So I don't know, Glenda, if you want to have a few words, or you have a question, a poll that you wanted to pull. We can do that before the time is up.
Well, I'm not sure if you saw the questions. We have 7. I'm not sure if they were all answered.
George is keeping track of them.
We had a few, and I think, you know, Faisal's question as well, Hugo, you spoke about, and Lewis as well, we're talking about the physical MTOs. We've got a question about stable coins. I think we've spoken about that, super interesting kind of stuff. We do have some questions though in chat. I can maybe just touch upon quickly before the time is up, and anyone else wants to add. We've got talk about the ATM network provider. I'll lead that to Jesus. And you know, Chainalysis. We say, is anyone using Chainalysis? We're looking at bringing them, and how would you rate them? Chainalysis is one of these companies which do the sort of crypto compliance auditing on crypto transactions themselves. So many sort of companies in the industry that are dealing with crypto, you know, they might need to engage, depending on the local, you know, licensing and registration, some sort of, you know, auditing provider for their crypto transactions like Chainalysis to make sure the transactions are going to the right place. They're one of the largest in the industry. I think they were the first as well. To be honest, I think it's pretty expensive, but you know, they are kind of the gold standard in a lot of this stuff. So yeah, I mean, if that is something which your business needs, then great. However, I would say that it's certainly worth looking into if it's really necessary, or if it's just nice to have and somebody's trying to sell you on it. Because
I can add to that.
Go for it. Yeah.
Yeah. So we actually use. So we are one of those businesses that are required to have this stuff by our regulators, and specifically with Chainalysis, the requirement is along the lines of you need to make sure that you're not sending Bitcoin or crypto to a what we call a dark net kind of address, something that, you know, kind of is associated with illegal activities and things like that. Granted, the hit rate is very, very low, right? I mean, for us, it's 0. So we've never actually found an address that kind of matched those parameters that I just said. But we are required to have a provider like this. So George is correct that it is pretty pricey. I will say that the provider that we use is actually a frequent sponsor of IMTC, Identity Mind. So we use them, and they have kind of blockchain analysis tools built into their platform. But Identity Mind does a lot of other things too. They do sanction screening, PEP screening, and kind of other things that are required of money services businesses like ours. So for me, it was a slightly easier decision, because at least it was just, I have to go to one platform to do all of this stuff, rather than you kind of look for different providers for the various things that you need. It was a little bit simpler cognitively for us to just kind of have that one partner. I can't speak to the price because, you know, I mean, but
you know, and if anyone that is listening want us or to give you an opinion, feel free to write us. We'll help out. I mean, we share that information. It's part of what we do, and so we're happy to help. Thank you very much. I think Glenda, we're all yours.
Okay. we're gonna run the poll. It'll be very quick, very simple. And here it goes.
Will we be able to see it?
Yes.
Oh, there. Cool. Awesome.
Oh, yeah. Okay, what other
Oh,
topics?
hosts and panelists cannot vote. I forgot about that. Okay. We can just see the results.
Right.
Oh, wow, that's why I couldn't vote. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
We'll
yeah,
get
yeah.
vote number 3.
I mean, yeah, right? Of course we're going to vote for number 3.
Okay, no, thank you very much, everyone. It was a pleasure. Let's think about some of the panels we're going to do in November. We're using these virtual roundtables to really think about topics that we can get together and discuss from wherever we are. Any ideas that you want to come up to, if you want to participate in some, if you want to be the moderator and run it, we're just a, you know, IMTC and the Platinum Network is just a platform for us to find each other in this large international community that we all love and share. Okay, can you show the results? Everybody's is gonna go for cryptocurrencies, but this is not an impartial crowd.
Yeah, not exactly the most impartial panel ever.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that was kind of what we expected there.
Nice.
That's called a 51% attack, guys. That's
Yeah, and us, we didn't vote, so Jesus, you did good for compliance and regulation.
Next time.
Thank you very much, guys. Thank you, everybody who
Thank
joined
you.
us. Send us more questions if you have them. We'll try to we'll run a blog for that. Thank you, Glenda. Thank you.
Thank you all
Thanks,
for
everyone.
joining.
George,
Please stay safe.
See you guys.
See you in 2 weeks. Join us again.
2 weeks, okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.